15-2 in their last 17 games. Yeah, tell that to the Minnesota Wild. We recap a thrilling win against Toronto and look ahead to a massive 4-game road trip all today on Locked on Wild.
You're Locked on Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of Locked on Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked on Wild your first listen every day. And just as a reminder, Locked on Wild is free and available wherever you listen to podcasts. On today's episode of Locked on Wild, we recap the thrilling shootout win for the Minnesota Wild over the Toronto Maple Leafs and take a look at what is going to be a big road trip for the Minnesota Wild, plus a former coach for the Minnesota Wild finding a new home late last night. So we'll talk about that as well. My name is Seth Topal, host of Locked on Wild, veteran Minnesota sports content producer with over a decade's worth of coverage experience handling all things Minnesota sports. And here on a Monday edition of Locked on Wild, I'm joined by our regular contributor, Alex Micheletti, for Micheletti Monday. Alex, what's happening?
Not too much. Another exciting weekend of Wild hockey, and so they proved it against one of the best teams going right now against Toronto. So that was fun to see them pick up an exciting win for the fans to be able to watch for sure.
Yeah, it was a crazy atmosphere. The Wild had a 3-0 lead, and it got to the point where it looked as though Toronto was going to get run out of the building. But then the Maple Leafs able to take advantage of a couple of Wild penalties that led to a 3-3 score. But the Wild are able to hold in the third period, and we get just an amazing overtime between both teams. Then we go to the shootout. What were some of the things that really stood out to you about Saturday night's win?
Yeah, more magic from Kirill Kaprizov. So that was fun to see. And just the way the Wild hung together. After having that lead and then collapsing a little bit. You think though, the wheels are going to fall off. But they stuck together and were able to pick up a huge win in that shootout. Amazing shootout goals. So that was so exciting to watch, and huge to get multiple points out of that game for sure.
I thought Cam Talbot was really good, and it continues to stretch for Talbot. He's been great over the last few games. You look at kind of the surface and say, well, he gave up 3 goals, but you got to throw that first goal out. That was the craziest bounce I think I've seen a puck take.
Right.
It hit off of Jordy Benn's skate and ended up hitting the back of Talbot's mask into the net. Like that's a like 1 in a million chance goal that you, as a goalie, there's nothing you can do.
Nothing. Not at all. Like we've mentioned multiple times on this podcast, where would this team be without Cam Talbot? So, I don't think you can fully trust Capo yet, and so it's nice to have that veteran netminder for sure to help kind of calm things too when the wheels start to fall off a little bit, but they held together.
Yeah, he was a huge part in the win. The other part, the grief line. Greenway-Foligno and Eriksson Ek was superb once again. And Jordan Greenway, man, like over the last, 2 or 3 games, the season was trending towards him being traded or waived at some point. Just really wasn't offering a lot on the ice. And all of a sudden, Within the last 2 or 3 games, he has really picked it up, and he just makes that line much like Victor Rask with Kirill Kaprizov. He just makes that line what it is, and so you got to keep rolling him out there. But that line was pivotal to the game.
Oh yeah, I think he's feeling the pressure. Because the young guys down in Iowa are really performing really well, and so he would be a candidate to get moved out and have the one of the young guys come up. And so I know I think, in my opinion, I think that he's really feeling the pressure, and now is performing like he should be in that, if you're in that type of top 6, you would say. And so yeah, it's good. And what more can you say about Marcus Foligno too? I mean, the guy just, he does it all for the team, and he's the energy of that team in that locker room, and an amazing guy to have on the team for sure.
Yeah, it was just, it was just such a great performance. I mean, you look at the goals that Jack Campbell gave up on the Leaf side. I mean, he left one entire half of the crease open, and Greenway was able to tap in the birdie. Then you have that just weird angle shot by Foligno. The other thing that I wanted to key in on a little bit was the shootout, and you've got Matt Zuccarello, who just put Jack Campbell in the blender. A filthy move from him, and then you have Kirill Kaprizov, who makes it look like he's not even trying. 2 just filthy shootout goals for this team.
Yeah, that chip by Kaprizov was just ungodly. Yeah, it's fun. The shootout's gimmicky. I wish they would just do 3-on-3 for until someone scores. That would be just so much fun, because at some point you would get an odd man rush chance, and not have to worry about a gimmicky type of shootout. But hey, the Wild have the players when it comes to shootout time that they can really pull off some crazy moves, and so yeah, it's so much fun to watch.
And I keep going back to the point that Cam Talbot doesn't need to make all the saves. He just needs to make the important ones.
Right.
And I think that's an extension of this offense just playing so well that I'm sure it takes pressure off of him, to where he knows the game's not over if he gives up 2 goals. Like, this Wild offense has been more than capable. They're second in the NHL in goals in the entire NHL. They're more than capable of scoring. And so that takes a lot of pressure off of him, to where he doesn't have to sweat every save. He can give up 3 goals to a really good Toronto team and still come away with the win.
Yeah, the Wild are a really good defensive team, and so, but they can change their style so much. And if they want to be a run and gun team, they definitely have the guys capable to do that. And when you get a guy like Kirill going, it's he can be unstoppable on some nights. And so you see the play of Ryan Hartman get elevated too. It's just when he's playing with guys like Zuccarello and Kaprizov, it's it's exciting to watch. They dominate the ice when they're when that line is all together. It's something else.
It is what I would call, we used the term earlier in the year, but it is what I would call the statement win. Because yes, Toronto is without Mitch Marner, but they were 15-2 in their last 17 games coming into this one, and the Wild are able to get the shootout win. So that goes out to Ray on Twitter. Statement win for the Wild over the weekend against Toronto. I avoided a lot of the chirping of Toronto fans. Unfortunately, Spoke Z did not. But that's a whole different story for a whole nother show. Another big week coming up for the Wild with a huge West Coast road trip. And so we will dive into that a little bit further as we continue today's episode of Locked On Wild with Alex Micheletti after this. Indeed is a hiring partner that gets you what you really want. A short list of quality candidates as fast as possible. Because you can do it all. Attract, interview, and hire all at Indeed. Don't struggle to find your own quality candidates. Indeed can help you hire the right people right now. Indeed partners with you on every step of the hiring process, so you can find talent with the skills you need with tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. Indeed makes it easier for star applicants to shine with over 135 assessment tests from cooking to coding. Assessments make the interview process smoother for everyone. Talent doesn't need to prove themselves again, and you can dive deeper into talking about what's important to you. So get started right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to update your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. Get a $75 credit at Indeed.com/lockedon. Indeed.com/lockedon. Offer valid through December 31st. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows, you're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friend's login for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all of that entertainment you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there is no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. Continuing today's episode of Locked On Wild. Again, thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen every day. And just as a reminder, we are free and available wherever you listen to podcasts. Alex, a 4-game swing for the Wild this week, a big one as well. And it starts, of course, with two of the best players in the entire NHL who happen to both play on the same team. As we go to the Edmonton Oilers, that is tomorrow night's game. Then on Thursday, the Wild will be on the road yet again as they are taking on the San Jose Sharks. Then Saturday, it's at the Los Angeles Kings. And Sunday, it's at the Vegas Golden Knights. So 4 road games, 4 late starts. Awesome. Can't wait. So excited for it. This is going to be fun because Edmonton is off to a great start. And so let's just start with that game. You get a chance to see McDavid and Draisaitl. But the thing that I didn't realize in looking into this game a little bit is that Edmonton has not been super good in 5-on-5. And it turns out the Wild have been superb in 5-on-5. So if you look at this matchup and you think, I don't think the Wild have it, it's going to be a lot closer, I think, than people give them credit for.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting, too, with this matchup. You know, if Connor McDavid, if he gets suspended at all, because he got kicked out of tonight's game for a really kind of a boarding call, where the Kings guy got his Kempe got his face kind of slammed into the boards or into the glass, and so that's going to be interesting. But yeah, I mean, Edmonton just, it's not only just Draisaitl and McDavid, but you got Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. I mean, Darnell Nurse. Just Tyson Barrie. They have some just big names kind of all over the place, and so you're gonna have to keep them off the power play. I mean, that's that's their bread and butter. Is the power play. And so if you can keep them out of the box, that can help limit their offensive capabilities a little bit.
Yeah, it's going to come down to, how the Foligno, Eriksson Ek, and Greenway line does against McDavid. Because then you also have to contend with Leon Draisaitl outside of that. And so I'm not saying you're going to stop those guys entirely, although Draisaitl was silent in the loss for the Oilers. And so it's all about just limiting them. And if the Wild can get some really good play out of the bottom 6 like they have pretty much all season, that's where you can potentially turn the tide and turn this from what would seem to be a loss penciled in at the start of the season to maybe eking out a win in like a shootout or an OT. I'd love that. I'd love that to start off the road trip.
Yeah, no doubt. I mentioned this before the Toronto game, and Jonas Brodin was tremendous defensively on Austin Matthews. I think that's going to have to be the same case anytime McDavid or Draisaitl's out there to make sure that Jonas Brodin is out there. Just what amazing shutdown defenseman he can be, and so. I would love to see him be out there against those two as much as possible. It's going to be a little bit different because they'll be on the road, so they won't have last change. So I'm sure Dave Tippett and Edmonton coaching staff will see, make sure that they try to get a matchup against the third pairing a lot against the Wild with those guys.
Next up then is the San Jose Sharks, and this will give the Wild an opportunity to try to avenge what I'm calling their worst loss of the season. That 4-1 loss to the Sharks, which seems like an eternity ago. But San Jose trending in the wrong direction. They had won 5 of 6, and they now have lost 2 in a row, including a 6-4 loss to the Columbus Blue Jackets of all teams. So a scrappy team, to say the least, but the Wild had pretty good success on the road against San Jose last year, and so, again, not going to count them out of any game because of their ability to come back from any deficit, but I would think that if the Wild were able to beat Edmonton on Tuesday night, that they would go into Thursday night's game with some pretty big confidence to try to make it 2-0 on the road trip.
Yeah, the Sharks are a sneaky team. They don't. They no longer have the services of Evander Kane with all his drama continuing. So that's a huge part of their offense that's gone from last year. But you got to keep an eye out for a guy like Timo Meier. I think he's been one of the best players in the NHL over the last couple weeks, and so that's a name Wild fans should be on the lookout for. As the Swiss forward is he's just turning into such a great player. And then also the Wild killer, Erik Karlsson. He always seems to play well against the Wild, and so can make sure to try to limit his offense. And of course, our old friend Brent Burns. He always seems to have big games against his former club too. So.
Naturally.
Yes, but their goaltending, they give up a lot of goals, a lot of shots, and so I'm expecting another 5+ type of win for the goals and a win for the Wild against the Sharks.
After that, they play the Los Angeles Kings. The Kings are going in the wrong direction. They are 2-7 in their last 9, which inexplicably includes a 5-1 beatdown of the Edmonton Oilers for whatever reason. But that's a team that the Wild had a lot of good success against last year. Not last year's Kings team, but a chance to catch a team in a bad stretch of their season. So you can see the effect here is that if the Wild are able to, if they can beat Edmonton, they can beat the Sharks, then you look at the Kings game as one that they probably should have. All of a sudden, if all of that plays out in the Wild's favor, the Kings represent a chance for the Wild to get their 3rd win of the road trip.
Yeah, they're another weird team, and are the games against the Kings they always seem to be super close for whatever reason, and intense. And Drew Doughty is back, so another old friend that always likes to chirp against the Wild, and so that'll be something. If you can get a couple in early, you're good for a Jonathan Quick kind of meltdown. He can get really angry and just lose it, and so. If he's in the net, I would expect a lot of goals to be coming the Wild's way. Cal Peterson, their backup, I think is a little bit better than Quick now, just where Quick is in his career. And so it'll be interesting to see who they choose to put in the net. you always have to worry about a guy like Anze Kopitar too, still one of the best two-way centers in the league. So just got to be aware of where he is at all times on the ice for sure. Not much of a scoring threat, but he sets up guys like no other in this league, and he's got some good wingers next to him, and Victor Arvidsson and Dustin Brown, who seems like he's been playing in the NHL for like 20 years. So yeah, definitely a weird team.
And then the final game of the 4-game road trip is the Vegas Golden Knights on Sunday. And Vegas kind of getting healthy again. They, of course, made the big move to get Jack Eichel, who we won't see for a while. But they seem like they're getting players back, and they're still kind of stumbling. Win 2, lose 2, win 1, lose 1. But still, as the Wild saw earlier this season, still a very dangerous team, and they play a style that does not necessarily lead to the Wild having success.
Yeah, they just got Max Pacioretty back, and all he's been doing is scoring. He scored again tonight, and they put him, Chandler Stevenson, and Mark Stone together, and that line is really tough to stop when they get rolling. And Robin Leonard's been playing a lot better recently too. So yeah, I think they're one of the scariest teams in the West going right now. Even more scarier than Edmonton, and so it'll be interesting to see with the back-to-back how the goalie rotation goes, or if Cam plays both nights. I'd rather see Cam play against Vegas, and then Capo gets maybe the game before, but against the Kings. But we'll see. They got some interesting decisions for sure.
Yeah, they certainly do. Speaking of interesting decisions, there is some big NHL news for us to discuss, as a former fan favorite head coach of the Minnesota Wild is back in the NHL. We'll talk more about that next with Alex Micheletti here on Locked On Wild. This holiday season, grab the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, or even better than a candy bar. That's Built Bar, filled with so much holiday goodness, rich with decadent flavor, covered in chocolate, but amazingly low in calories, sugar, net carbs, and fat, and high in protein. You get the best of both worlds, delicious and healthy. Plus, there are so many flavors you'll have a hard time choosing your favorite. Will you go for raspberry or mint brownie, cherry or double chocolate, cookies and cream, or peanut butter brownie? Want to cozy up with something warm? Here's a holiday secret. Dip your Built Bar into a piping hot cup of cocoa, let it melt a little, and give your beverage a bit of that Built Bar flavor. Plus, you'll have a nice melty Built Bar to go with it. So head to Built.com and use the promo code LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off of your order. Again, use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. BetOnline.ag has you covered all season long with more props, more odds, and more lines than ever before as football season continues to march to the playoffs. BetOnline.ag remains your number one spot for all the sports action this season. So head over to their new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code LOCKEDON to receive that welcome bonus. The NBA, college basketball, college football's bowl season, the NFL's push to the playoffs, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all of the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline.ag is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline.ag, where the game starts. Final segment of today's episode of Locked On Wild. Again, thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen every day. Thank you for helping Locked On Wild get to its first 5,000 download week in the show's history. Could not do it without all of our wonderful listeners. Seth Topol joined by Alex Micheletti. Alex, Bruce Boudreau is back because it turns out Vancouver could wait no longer they cleaned house, and Bruce Boudreau is back in the NHL. What do you think of the fit?
Yeah, it's it's interesting. I mean, he's 66, by far one of the oldest coaches in the league now again. So, I for sure thought he was going to get the Seattle job, and then out of nowhere, Dave Haxtell got it. No one saw that coming, but good for Bruce. But I don't really see the fit. But maybe he wanted one last challenge. At showing that he could be a coach in the league. It'll be be interesting. They got rid of Jim Benning too. After he had just had a you can't even speechless type of offseason moves.
Jeez.
And trading for a guy like Oliver Ekman-Larsson, and that made no sense. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how things go. It looks like the Sedin twins, who are now in that front office, are going to help out, and I think they're going to just kind of share duties until they can get an actual GM later, or maybe in the off season. And yeah, we'll see how Bruce does. He had just been working for the NHL Network for a little bit there, and maybe he can maybe he can be the guy to get guys like Elias Pettersson and Brock Besser going a little bit. And we'll see now that Benning's gone, if they do decide to go fire sale with the players too, and trade a guy like JT Miller, who Wild fans have been clamoring for here. So yeah, it's going to be interesting next couple of weeks to see if things really go off the rails, or if Bruce can steer the ship into some wins. We'll see.
If anybody can do it, it's Boudreau, but there's not a lot. There. I saw something that Elias Pettersson is in the midst of the worst stretch of play in his career, which does not help. So
crazy. They were playing him on the third line. He's a top line guy. Guys kind of just are, not playing with any confidence. And so we'll see if the coaching change gets guys like him going. And you haven't heard much from Hughes, either. So they really need their big guns to get going here. And we'll see. I've always liked some of their offensive talent. Getting a guy like Connor Garland was a steal. He had been putting up a lot of points for an Arizona team that doesn't score. So at least that was one good move Jim Benning made. We'll see. They just they've been so bad defensively, and so maybe Bruce's system will help that. I really like Thatcher Demko. He can make some incredible saves, and so we'll just see if they can clean up that defense. I've never been the biggest Tyler Myers guy. He's kind of a train wreck defensively. Same thing with Ekman-Larsson, and so I think they really miss a guy like Nate Schmidt, who they had previously. Such a really weird team.
Yeah, it's strange to see them kind of where they've been at. Speaking of strange to see where they're at, the Philadelphia Flyers, who have another former Minnesota Wild executive in Chuck Fletcher as their GM, after losing to the Tampa Bay Lightning 7-1, the Flyers are 8-10-4 on the season. They have been outscored by 21 goals. They are 1-7-2 in their last 10 games. They've lost 8 in a row. How much longer is Fletcher going to have? Because he made some moves that got a lot of attention in the offseason. How much of a leash is he going to have with Philly?
Yeah, Brent Flair's there with them too, his right-hand man. A lot of wild connections with that team. But they are just so disappointing. They have so much talent on that team. You look at their captain and Claude Giroux, and guys like James Van Riemsdyk and Travis Konechny. Talent all over the place. Ryan Ellis, Ivan Provorov. So I don't know what the deal is. Hart is kind of just lost all confidence in net there. And Chuck also made the move to sign Martin Jones, who is by far the worst goalie in the NHL last season. So that made no sense signing him. And they traded for a guy like Ristolainen from Buffalo. Why would you want to trade for a Buffalo Sabres defenseman? Just makes your defense look even worse. They gave up a high draft pick for him. So I don't know what Chuck is doing. I've heard he's in the last year of his contract too. So I wouldn't expect him to come back. And usually when the GM goes, the coach goes too. It didn't happen with the Wild here because they kept Dean, but Alain Vigneault, I think he's on the hot seat too. The Flyers are in such a hard division too. It doesn't look like things are going to get any better anytime soon. So we could have another GM get canned here in Chuck Fletcher.
And it seems like the Wild made the right choice with Dean and with Bill Guerin because tied for first in the Western Conference. So we'll see a pivotal week for the Wild if they can, go 3-1 on the road trip. They can go 4-0. Then at that point you got to consider them. I mean, they're already considered the favorites to win the Stanley Cup according to MoneyPuck.com. Their odds have them at like a 10+% chance to win the Cup. So. Fun times in Minnesota. We'll see if they can keep it rolling, but I think that is a perfect spot to wrap it up here for today's episode. So now that your first listen of the day is done, make sure to check out Locked On Bets to get the lowdown on all of your favorite teams so that your bets can be the best. That is Locked On Bets wherever you listen to podcasts, just like Locked On Wild, which is available anywhere you listen to podcasts as well. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, playing all the hits on all of our social media platforms, trying to keep you as up to date as possible on all things Minnesota Wild, because if a puck drops in the state of hockey, Locked On Wild has you covered with new episodes every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.